Welcome to Inspiration and Transformation from the Banks of the Ganga with Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati, an American sannyasi living at the Parmarth Niketan Ashram in Rishikesh, India. Sadhvi is president of the Divine Shakti Foundation, a charitable organization bringing education, vocational training, upliftment, and empowerment programs to women and children. Sadhvi is also Secretary General of the Global Interfaith Wash Alliance and Director of the world-famous International Yoga Festival. Join the musings of an American sannyasi as Sadhvi shares the wisdom and teachings of her guru, His Holiness Pujya Swami Chidanand Saraswatiji.
Welcome everyone to Inspiration and Transformation from the holy banks of the sacred Ganga River in the land of Rishikesh, India.
I have something to ask.
Okay, go right ahead.
Whenever we are big or small, we can protect the environment, like not wasting water or cutting down trees or not throwing garbage on the roads.
Absolutely. 100%. Is that a question?
That's the ask.
It's an ask. Okay. So, the answer is absolutely. For those of you who may not have heard him so perfectly, he said all of us who are big and small can protect the environment. There's so many things we can do. Absolutely. And you've given some great examples of what we can do. We cannot cut trees. We cannot use things that are made from trees that are cut down.
Like paper?
Well, paper we have to use, but they make recycled paper. You can buy paper that is 100% recycled. And you also can do, because here in India it's not quite as common, unfortunately. Hopefully it will become more and more. I know in the West it's really easy to get it. Here, not so much. But here, what we do anyway is the paper you have, you make sure to really use it. So you use not only the front and then throw it, but you use the front, you use the back. If there's a little bit at the bottom, cut that off. That becomes a notepad. So if you have to use it, if you have to use paper, and these days anyway, everything is digital. Really no need to have too much paper. But if you have to use it, just make sure that you use the whole paper. And you can plant trees, right?
Yes.
You don't have to be big and strong to plant trees. You can plant a lot of trees. And you know what else you can do is you can inspire other people to plant trees. So when you have a birthday party, say you have 30 or 40 or even more, maybe people who come to your birthday party. How many people come to your birthday party?
Normally none. In South Africa.
Oh, okay.
In India, I
You are
have
right.
friends and COVID's there.
You are right. So before COVID, when you were with all of your friends, how many people came to your birthday party?
30 or somewhere like that.
Yeah, somewhere around 30. That's what I thought. So now, if you had a tree planting birthday party, where everybody in your birthday party planted trees, with 30 people, you could easily plant a few hundred trees in only maybe half an hour, 45 minutes, and still have time for the movies. Or bowling or whatever else you do, you would still have time. But you know what else you can do?
What?
Do you know what the absolute most important thing for anyone to do to save the environment is? Unless you are the prime minister or the president of a country. Other than that, they have a lot of other ways. Other than that, the most important thing anyone can do to save the environment, you want to guess what it might be?
I don't know.
Anybody else want to guess?
Transport.
Planting trees is great. Transport is right up there. Any other guesses? The number one most powerful way to avert climate change and protect the environment. To protect water. Well, we need water. Be a vegetarian. Then you make others vegetarians. The meat industry, and this is United Nations statistics. The meat industry, meaning the cows and the pigs and the chickens, who from the time they're born, they are raised like a factory, just to become hamburgers and hot dogs and chicken McNuggets. That industry that we call animal agriculture is the single greatest contributor to climate change. Single greatest contributor to environmental destruction. You mentioned about water. The amount of water that goes into the production of 1 pound of beef. So a couple friends sit together for hamburgers. That amount of water is about 2,500 gallons of water. It's very approximately, you can say 10,000 liters. It's about the same amount of water that you would use in bathing every day. Do you bathe every day?
Yes.
Great. Now, do you bathe from a bucket or do you bathe from a shower that comes like this?
A shower.
Okay. How long do you think your shower is approximately?
I don't know.
Okay, well, they found out that the average shower is 8 minutes. Okay? Sounds about average to me. If you bathe every day, and you bathe from a shower, not the bucket like we do here that saves even more water, but you bathe from a shower 8 minutes a day, the amount of water that you use in 6 months of bathing is the same amount of water that goes into that meal of hamburgers. Which means that for those who are not vegetarians but care about the environment, you literally would have to not bathe for 6 months in order to offset the water usage of that one meal of hamburgers. Chicken is about a third, so you'd have to not bathe for 2 months if you sat down to chicken nuggets with friends. So being a vegetarian, single best way. You know, Puja Swamiji was speaking in the Aarti about the Amazon forest.
Yes.
The Amazon forest are what we call the lungs of the world. They provide about 20% of the oxygen we need. They absorb about 20% of the carbon. And they hold and provide about 20% of the fresh water on Earth. But literally, every second, you know how long a second is?
Like
Can you show us? Clap your hands. How much is a second?
1.
Do like 5 seconds.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
In that amount of time, 5 acres of rainforest have been cut down simply to graze the cows who become hamburgers. That is a lot of trees. Now, you could plant trees with all of your friends from morning till night, every night, and you couldn't plant as many trees as are being cut down for the hamburgers. Keep planting them. It's great. It's super important. But also, if you can convince all your friends to be vegetarian, that will be the strongest and best and most powerful thing you can do. And it's so easy. It's easy. 3 times a day we have this beautiful opportunity. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
How 3 times?
Puja Swamiji is asking, why do we have it 3 times a day, an opportunity?
To save the environment.
We do, but why do we get it 3 times a day? What do you do 3 times a day?
Eat lunch, breakfast, and dinner.
Exactly. So if you eat all of them as vegetarian, then you have contributed to saving the environment 3 times a day.
Okay.
Sound good?
Yes.
Great.
You're listening to OTR FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Being a radio host on IOM-FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the Internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Elia, in the circle on Sunday 2 p.m. Eastern as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
Hi, this is Christina Ricci with RAIN. Every 2 minutes, another American is sexually assaulted. If you or someone you know has been sexually assaulted, you are not alone. Help is just a call or click away through the National Sexual Assault Hotline. Please call 1-800-656-HOPE, that's HOPE, or visit RAIN.org, that's RAINN.org.
Brought to you by RAIN and this station.
Welcome back to Inspiration and Transformation. I'm so glad to have you all back here with me.
What is it that keeps us from living up to our full potential? Ignorance. Ignorance is what keeps us from living up to the full potential. Ignorance, number one, of what is our full potential. In many cases, we don't even know what we are capable of, what can happen through us. And then ignorance of that keeps us stuck thinking we can't make it happen. Thinking we're not smart enough or good enough or young enough or old enough or wise enough or whatever it may be. It's also important, though, to realize when we talk about potential, we've all got a lot of potential in a lot of different ways. And so, for example, on a personal level, I am sure that I have potential as a neuroscientist that is not being utilized. I have potential in probably, if I spent the rest of Satsang thinking about it, I could come up with probably 10 or 12 different things that I'm good at, that I actually even enjoy and have an interest in, but that are not what I'm dedicating my life to. And so you could say, well, I've got an unlived up to potential in these areas. But when we think about our potential, it's important not to think about all of the other things that we could be doing. That isn't the question. I am sure that every one of us has skills and abilities and interests that are not what you're necessarily utilizing in your day. That in and of itself is not a problem. There's no way, if you're someone who's got a lot of skills, a lot of abilities, a lot of interests, there's no way that you actually could fulfill your potential in all of these areas. So I also have a black belt in karate. I got a black belt when I was 15. I haven't done karate since I was about 17, 18 maybe. Again, you could say, well, you know, I had this great potential I could have become. But it wasn't where my life was going. It wasn't something that anymore was for me the path that was important to walk. So a lot of times I hear people kind of bemoan the fact I'm not using my full potential. And the problem with that is, well, is that potential in something which actually is your dharma? I'm pretty clear that my dharma was not to become the best 5'3", fighter in the world. Pretty sure about that. I never liked to fight anyway. But I knew that wasn't really what I was here on earth for. Similarly, when I was studying neuropsych, I loved it. I was fascinated by it. I'm still fascinated by it. I love science. And I'm pretty clear that the majority of my time is not meant to go in studying science, but that rather my interest in it and ability for it is actually much more meant to work with what is my dharma, which is this, which is sharing love, sharing peace, sharing truth, sharing my path so others can find their path, helping to be a channel for others. So yeah, sometimes you get people who can hear things only when it's scientific. So I've got the ability to share things in a scientific way. But it wasn't my dharma. And so when you think about your potential, it's important to realize every one of us is going to have abilities and skills that are not actually what our main dharma is. It's what we have hobbies for. It's what we have, things that you just do that you enjoy that are not necessarily either your career, your vocation, your purpose, your dharma. But when you think about what actually is your purpose, what you are really here to give to the world, well, that's the area you want to make sure that you are living up to your full potential. Because that's the area when you're not, it becomes very, very difficult inside. And it also is kind of like you're cheating yourself and you're cheating the world. But here's another piece of that. Each of our purposes, our dharma, is not always something that's romantic or glamorous, or that puts you in some kind of a spotlight, or that makes people appreciate and love you. You think about Arjun's dharma. You think that was something that he, from the time he was young, thought, yeah, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to fight a war and kill my family members? Of course not. He didn't even want to do it when it started. It was only having Bhagwan Krishna explain to him in these beautiful 700 verses of the Gita why he needed to fight that helped him do it. And so when you think about your potential, it's much more an inner experience than it is an outer experience. Usually when people say, I'm not living up to my full potential, if you really look at it, a lot of times what it means is, my life isn't nearly as exciting or glamorous as I would like it to be. I'm not getting recognized or appreciated nearly as much as I would like to be. The full potential is an internal potential of living every moment. And this is true, by the way, regardless of what our dharma in the world is. Our inner potential, inner purpose, inner dharma, the real reason we're here, is to learn how to live every minute and every moment in truth, in consciousness, in love, in peace, being an instrument. And how that instrument is used may vary day to day, minute to minute, moment to moment. That's our fullest potential, is how am I being utilized? And to let yourself be utilized by the divine. And yeah, if you know if you know you've got a gift, and that gift doesn't feel like you're able to bring it into the world, then look at that which is keeping you from bringing it into the world. What have you told yourself about your abilities, about your strengths, about your talents that are keeping you from bringing that gift into the world? But also, along with that, realize you may be bringing it into the world already. Just because you're not necessarily getting noticed for it, or that it's not necessarily as glamorous or romantic as you may have thought it would be, doesn't mean that you are not fulfilling your gift. I think so frequently about these guys on the roads hammering rocks, right? In India, we keep people employed year after year by, instead of bringing in, the road machines that are used in so many other parts of the world that make asphalt and whatnot, we actually hire people who are on the side of the road and they're hammering rocks. Big rocks into medium rocks and medium rocks into little rocks. And I think about it sometimes as we drive through the mountains and you see these people on the side of the road. And I think, really? This guy's dharma, purpose, potential gift is to be hammering rocks? And you realize, of course not. But what is happening through the hammering of the rocks? And in my mind, I think about him as the first man in whatever slum they're living in to send his daughter to school. That he's doing extra shifts hammering rocks so that his daughter doesn't have to be begging on the side of the road. And she can go to school. And then because she goes to school, the daughters of other people in the slum, the daughters who are on the side of the road selling pens or just begging or whatever, they start saying to their parents, "Can I also go to school? She goes to school. Why can't I go to school?" And this man, who very well may die before he even has any awareness of the impact of his life, has created a revolution. In the slum, where now suddenly girls are going to school. But you think, well, during his life, was he aware that he was creating a revolution? I don't think so. My guess is if you asked him, he would probably just say, "I've decided my daughter won't beg on the road. She's Lakshmi in our family. She won't beg on the road. Whatever I have to do, I'm prepared to do it." But the universe knew. And this is where it always is so important to just have faith in the universe. Not a lazy faith, not a sit on the couch and wait for your dharma to fall in your lap, but a faith in the universe that if you make yourself available, if you say to the universe, "Use me, I am here, I want to just be an instrument. Nimitta matram. Let me just have that bhav of being an instrument in your hands." The universe will use you. And you may not even necessarily know how you're being used. But with that faith, as long as you can stay free of that ignorance that tells you you can't, you don't have it in you, or that keeps you stuck thinking you're something else, you're going to fulfill it. It just may not be in the thing that you thought it was. My good friend who trained for black belt with me, we both got our first degree black belts together. She's now the highest ranking female black belt in America. She's like a 7th degree black belt. She's 55, runs a massive karate studio, trains so many, literally like the highest ranking black belt in the country. So I could say to myself, God, I didn't fulfill my potential. If I had stayed with her, kept fighting, kept training. But we all realize that was her dharma, not mine. So don't allow yourself to get stuck. Also, we do that a lot. We look around at other people. Oh, I was in school with them. Look where they've reached. They're making, 1 lakh of rupees a month already. Maybe 2 lakhs of rupees a month, and I'm, I don't even have a job yet. They're already, crorepati banne wale. I don't have a job. I'm not fulfilling my potential. Well, maybe you are. Who knows? Who knows whether that was actually your path, or whether your path is going to be something completely different and it just takes a little bit longer. Different animals have different gestation periods for their babies, right? Humans, it takes about 9 months. But different animals have different periods that it takes. Some lay eggs. Some actually give birth to live young, right? And those who give birth, some of them keep them in the womb for a very short period of time. Some are longer. Elephants, I think, are something like 10, 11 months, maybe 12 months, something. There's no right or wrong answer. If you're giving birth to an elephant, you've got to wait a little bit longer. If you're giving birth to a chick, it's going to come out of an egg a lot quicker than an elephant baby will. Neither is better or worse. There's nothing higher about an elephant or lower about a chick. They're just different. And so recognize that you may have a very different period for giving birth what you are bringing into the universe.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Like Baldwin with People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. I grew up loving circuses and other traveling animal shows, but it never occurred to me what life might be like for the animals. Training wild animals to do things they don't understand takes force. Routine discipline with a hook or whip with the heel of a boot shows the animal exactly who's the boss. Don't patronize animal acts. Please contact People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals.
757-622-PETA.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati with inspiration and transformation.
Interesting. Which is more useful, intelligence or wisdom? So one of the things that, if you come to Satsang a lot or you watch a lot of them, you'll know about me is I try not to spend a lot of time in semantic dictionary distinctions. Difference between this word and that word. And the reason for that is that it doesn't impact our lives much. The whole point of Satsang is to bring us into the place of truth. That's what Satsang means, in the association, in the presence of truth. This is your time to dive into the truth of you. And so I try to avoid too many semantic distinctions, but this one was interesting. Intelligence and wisdom, because obviously on a deep level, wisdom, of course, is much more important. Of course, it's more important to be wise and have deep, deep understanding that comes from wisdom than to just have kind of the mental prowess that we associate with intelligence. And yet, intelligence is that enables us to live according to our wisdom. There are people who are wise, but who may not necessarily be so intelligent, and then what you find is, sadly, they're not even living by their own wisdom. So they know deep things. They've got great wisdom within themselves. And yet, in their own lives, the choices that they make are not putting that wisdom into practice. And so I would actually say they're both important. The wisdom, we must have it. Who are we? Wisdom tells us, who are we? Why are we here? Is it really just to accumulate more and more money? More and more possessions, more and more titles, more and more followers on Facebook, more and more neighbors who are jealous of us? I mean, is that really the point? Wisdom enables us to realize, no, we're here. We're here to experience the truth of who we are. And wisdom knows that truth. Wisdom knows that who you are is not the physical body, not the title, the role, the career, the bank account, but that who you are is divine. So that's wisdom, is the place in which truth is stored, you could say. So in satsang, we come into the association, the presence of truth. But then when you leave from here, what happens to that truth? Well, it gets stored, you could say, in your wisdom. If you experience and deeply become aware during this time of satsang, and don't allow yourself to get distracted, when you go, there will be a new wisdom within you. And then you may or may not implement it in your life. You may go back to old habits, old ways. You've got the wisdom, but intelligence is that says, hey, wait, we just talked about that in satsang. Oh, wait, I just had that awareness, that realization in satsang. I've got new wisdom. I don't have to act by these same habits. I don't have to be a slave to my emotions and ignorance. So the intelligence is that says, hey, wait, we've got some new wisdom here. New options, new opportunities. Intelligence says, let's try an alternative. I've done the screaming and yelling and slapping someone enough times. I've done the getting jealous and throwing a fit enough times. I've done the sacrifice, my health, my spiritual practice, my family, just to make more money or get ahead. I've done that. Let's try something else. And then intelligence is intelligent enough to draw upon your wisdom and make new decisions and new choices. So luckily, even though the questioner asked which is more important, luckily, they actually tend to travel together a lot of times, and they're both things that can be cultivated quite easily. So I would say make sure you cultivate both, the wisdom and then the intelligence to use the wisdom.
This is OTR FM, part of the IOM radio network.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Like Baldwin with People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. I grew up loving circuses and other traveling animal shows, but it never occurred to me what life might be like for the animals. Training wild animals to do things they don't understand takes force. Routine discipline with a hook or whip with the heel of a boot shows the animal exactly who's the boss. Don't patronize animal acts. Please contact People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals.
757-622-PETA.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati with inspiration and transformation.
The purpose of our life. You know, it's so interesting. Ask your grandmother. Did she ever wonder about the purpose of her life? Right? Immediately, we know, no, we don't even have to ask. We know that our grandparents did not worry about the purpose of their life. Which is so interesting because purpose is something clearly that's critical. And yet, it's actually been, I would say, just a few decades that people have become even asking, what is the purpose of my life? And it's only been, I would say, within the last maybe decade that it's become a frenetic epidemic. This fever of, oh my God, I don't know the purpose of my life. And yet you're right, your grandmother never worried about it. And it's so ironic because in so many ways they were so much happier than we are. Right? So happy, so at peace, and never knew their purpose. And it's a very interesting thing to think about because if we assume that in order to be peaceful and happy, we have to know our purpose, and that our grandparents not only never asked, but never even thought about it, what it makes us realize is our purpose is much deeper. If you said to your grandmother, what is the purpose of your life? She would give you an answer. She wouldn't say, well, bus me Gito. Eat, drink, and be merry. She's not going to say that. There's a purpose. And in whatever way they may say it, they understand that the purpose is to do your duty, whatever that may be, at different times in your life. She had certain duties when she was young, then she had duties when she married your grandfather, then she had certain duties when she had your parent, your mom or your dad. She's had different duties at different stages of her life. So to do her duty and to realize the presence of the divine within her. And my guess would be that if all of us went and asked our grandparents what the purpose of their life was, we'd get some variation, but within the same idea of those two concepts, my duty and my connection to God. And in those two things, they were tripped. Not running around stressed that, oh my God, this, oh my God, that, what about this? this epidemic of stress, interestingly, coincides with this epidemic of what is my purpose. And what's happened is, and by the way, it's a very Western concept. It's come into India. These days, there is no border boundary separation. But you should know, this is a very Western concept, because it's a concept rooted in individuality. The West is all about me. What is my title here, role here, purpose here, point here? What am I getting out of it? And Indian culture is very different. The West is a very individualistic society. And so everybody's worried about what their individual purpose may be. Whereas your grandparents understood my purpose is to do the duty that God has given me, be close to God, and I'll know what I'm supposed to do when it falls in my lap. Baby's crying, I feed it. People show up at the home, I feed them. Somebody's sick, I take care of them, or I take them to a hospital. Somebody's homeless and poor, I do whatever I can for them. It was just natural. It didn't require sticky notes all over the house that said, my purpose is. So when you think about your purpose, the first piece that I would say is take 10 deep breaths, then take 10 more, and then start to think about your purpose. And the way that we know what it is, first of all, we don't all have only one purpose. And whether we use the word purpose or we use the word dharma, doesn't matter. The point is, why am I here? Why am I here? Well, I'm here, all of us. The reason every one of us is here is to realize the truth of who we are. To have that experiential awareness of the presence of the divine every minute, every moment, in everything, including myself. So it's not the honking your horn, screaming at pedestrians to get out of the way, yelling at the person in the car and in the seat in the car next to you who made you late because I got to get to temple and pray. We're able to realize the people driving the cars on the road, the pedestrians, the person in the seat next to me, are also God. Right? Otherwise, it's so frequent. Get out of my way, I got to get to yoga class. You made me late. Well, maybe my yoga class could start here in the car on the way. So the first universal dharma, universal purpose is wake up and recognize who you are and that place in the universe, which is an embodiment of the divine, that simultaneously carries with it the awareness that so is everyone else. And that's where all of these beautiful tenets, the yam, the niyam, and yog, all of our virtues, they become automatic. If I recognize the divine is in me, and since the divine doesn't play favorites, the divine is therefore in all, our scriptures tell us that anyway, well, suddenly things like ahimsa and satya and asteya, well, they're natural, they're automatic. Who to harm? Who to lie to? Who to steal from? Why to steal? Why to lie? Why to harm? So that happens automatically. Then you get to what you could call kind of your individual dharma. And even that changes throughout your life. When we're a student, clearly our dharma is to study. But even within student years, each of us also has different dharmas to our families, to siblings, different ways in the world that we're supposed to show up and be an instrument of the divine. And then we come into families, we have different dharmas in our families. We have our dharma as a citizen of a nation, but a citizen of the world. How we eat, how we shop, how we live. With nonviolence, with consciousness, with awareness of that ripple impact. So suddenly we're vegetarians, we're eating organic, we're buying fair trade, we're living simply so that others may simply live. That man mange more. And then we come to the part that your question is actually about, which is, well, but what am I supposed to do now? Like, what's my unique thing? And the truth is, there's no equation for it. There's no right way of knowing, other than to have faith in the intelligence of the universe. I always say, a caterpillar learns how to become a butterfly. I do not believe that a caterpillar knows from the time it is born, okay, I'm going to become a butterfly. It's just doing its caterpillar thing. And someday it hears a voice, it gets a sign or a signal that says, climb the tree. Weave yourself into this cocoon. Now sit still while I liquefy you. Now fly. It's never seen anyone fly, any caterpillars fly. It has no idea how to fly. But it does because it trusts. On whatever level a caterpillar become butterfly can trust, it does. A seed sprouts, it opens, it allows itself to be cracked and broken. Because on some level, to the extent to which a seed is able, it trusts. There is something better in store for me. If I stay the seed and I don't let myself be cracked and broken, I'm never going to become the tree and give fruit. And so there isn't the equation that I can say to you, here it is, or, this is what you write down. But just, number one, have trust. Have faith. And number two, be quiet and still enough that you can hear it. If the caterpillar spent its entire life bemoaning the fact and complaining about the fact that the millipede got 1,000 legs and he only got 100, he might miss the call that said climb the tree. Be still enough. Be quiet enough that you can hear it. And until then, or in between those times, you just keep putting one foot in front of the other, doing where you are, but doing it in as much alignment with your universal dharma. The divine in you, the divine in all. And what you'll find is doors will open, and then you walk through them. And then again, you put one foot in front of the other, and then another door opens, and you walk through it. But lastly, what I will tell you your purpose is not. And I mention this because you're a woman. And it's a particular issue that is arising these days around the world for women and purposes. There's this very powerful and very tragic, insidious, you could even say, movement around the idea that somehow, just because we can do everything, that we're supposed to do everything. Your grandmother, one of the reasons that she never thought about it was she probably didn't have very many options. I mean, her world was very narrow. Now, the world is at our fingertips. We can do anything. But along with that, we've been kind of indoctrinated to believe by media, by social media, by advertising, that we're actually, especially as women, supposed to do everything. You are supposed to be the head of some huge company that you founded by yourself, by the way. You must become an entrepreneur, found your own company, head it. But what do you mean you leave your kids at home with the nanny? Well, you got to be a stay-at-home mom. It's imperative that you're there taking care of them. You better have an organic vegetable garden. And you better make sure that you give your family organic vegetable juice squeezed from your garden every day. And that you are everything to everyone. Oh, and remember, you need 8 hours of sleep a night. And you're supposed to meditate and pray and do yoga, right? And puja for the family. Your purpose is not to do everything. Okay? And so don't believe that indoctrination. We've got a generation of women feeling like they are failing because they're not able to do it all. And it's not only women, by the way, it's everyone, but it's especially women. So be still, be quiet, have faith that if that intelligence flows through a caterpillar and a seed, it flows through you. And just keep putting one foot in front of the other, walking your dharma that you know, trusting the intelligence of the universe. But also, lastly, not thinking that it's something that's necessarily going to be glamorous or romantic. That's the other thing with purpose, is so many of us think it has to be, when I find it, it's going to be huge, it's going to be fun, everybody's going to love me for it. It's going to put me on the cover of a magazine. It's going to make me a lot of money, as though somehow dharma was proportional to our income. And just think back on the Bhagavad Gita and the lessons to Arjuna. Fighting that war was neither fun nor romantic nor glamorous. He didn't end the day with everyone going, "Oh wow, you're such a hero, we appreciate you so much." But he had to do it because it was his dharma. And in the same way, you'll hear it, you'll feel it, you'll find it.
This brings to a close this hour of inspiration and transformation. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad to be together with you all each week. And I look forward to being together again next Thursday, same time, on OMTimes Radio.